Can we pose for a thumbnail image for it real quick?
Yeah.
What should we do?
Just act like we're talking to each other like philosophizing. Ryan, give me one of these.
I don't know how, but they answered all of my questions. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Beyond ARTV. I am here with Dallon Weekes and Ryan Seaman of the musical duo I Don't Know How, but They Found Me. Thank you. I found you guys, first of all, so that made the interview happen.
You did, and I don't appreciate it.
Yeah, we have invaded your space here.
It's nice to have you here. I think, I don't know if you saw the dressing room today, but in here is the better choice for sure.
Yes, definitely. So you guys actually right now, I'm probably going to release this after the EP's been out, but your publicist sent me the EP. I had an advanced copy of it, and I have to say I really did enjoy it. And now that you're hot on the heels of that release, how are you guys feeling about playing like all of the live shows and getting the new music out there?
We're excited to play everything that's on the new EP live. We've only been doing a few tracks from it so far, but once it comes out, I think we'll be playing pretty much everything off of it.
Right.
So.
And the past year has probably been a whirlwind for you guys, especially given the success of Choke, like blowing up on YouTube, Spotify.
It's been insane.
What have the shows grown along with the success too? Like, have they gradually been getting like a little bit bigger in terms of turnout for the shows?
It certainly feels that way. We find ourselves playing catch up a lot with the fans, which is a great problem to have.
Sure.
But, it's a difficult challenge sometimes.
Yeah, of course. So I think a lot of people tend to forget that you guys have kind of, especially you, Dallon, you've had this project pretty much kind of ready to go, it seems, for a while. You had the idea, at least, for it for a while and started tinkering around with some of your own recordings.
I had some time to sort of develop it as I was making it. Starting around 2016 or so is just when I started to collect ideas and formulate like what I wanted to do with them.
And at what point in the process did you decide to like call up Ryan and basically say like, hey, I know you did some of the drumming for the Brobeck stuff, and you guys have worked together for a while. So at what point in the process were you like, let's make this a duo, let's team up, and like the whole like vintage tapes being uncovered? When was that angle really decided on?
It was all happening as we were making the EP. Really, like I would bring Ryan in to play the drums, and we got to hanging out again. Because when you're in a touring band, of which we both were at the time, you only ever really get to see your friends if you happen to be in the same city.
Right.
But as I was making these recordings and needed some drums on them, I would use my go-to guy. You know, like he's always there and he's amazing. So we just got to hanging out again and started talking about playing these songs live and doing it in secret, and it seemed like fun. So.
Like what the reception would be, and then it just kind of took off.
Yeah, just see if people could care about the songs without knowing or caring what bands we came from.
Right, and you guys kind of tried to downplay it for a while, if I'm not mistaken, kind of not trying to use your, like the fame or maybe the notoriety that comes along with you from your other bands to, you know, you wanted people to discover I Don't Know How as its own entity.
Yeah. I mean, we definitely knew that, you know, we would be given a chance to have our music shown to those people. Sure. We just wanted to...
We didn't want to exploit them.
Right, of course.
You know, we didn't, the fans or the bands that we were working for. There's something that just would have felt disingenuous about doing a press release and saying, hey, we're doing this new thing, come check it out. It would have been easy to do it that way.
Sure.
But something about it just didn't feel right, so we decided to build it as organically as we could, coming from the situations that
we were just doing what like most bands would do if you're just starting from the beginning. Like, okay, we're gonna play a small club that, you know, and at that time nobody knew what was going on.
Right, and they didn't know necessarily that it was you two.
We would just book it under this band name and not tell fans what we were doing, and go show up and play for a bunch of strangers and see if we could get their attention strictly based on the music we were making.
Right. Ryan, how long have you known Dallon?
Man, it's been like over 10 years.
Yeah, over 10 years. Wow, that's incredible. So
we're both from Utah as well.
Right.
Yeah.
That works. So was the initial like time that you guys worked together like on the Brobeck stuff, was that the first time that you ever collaborated musically? Okay. So moving into the new EP and the territory there, at what point in the process did you get involved? Was there like from the start, was it just you, or had it already like come to the point where Ryan was involved when you started recording for the EP?
I had started the recording process, but Ryan came on like pretty early into it,
Right.
because I needed drums and I didn't have a huge budget for anything.
Right.
And as we got to hanging out, presenting this stuff as a band just seemed really appealing. I missed hanging out with my friend, and it's nice to have someone there by your side to help keep your ego in check and tell you when something's not a good idea.
Of course.
So
Was there a chemistry right away though?
Well,
when you guys
there always has been.
Sure.
It just felt like, I've said this before, but it's like, we've been playing on and off together for like the last 10 years. Like even he would do like Christmas songs, I could play on some of those, and it's just I've never had another person where it just locked in so easily and quickly.
Right.
So,
and we always stayed in touch regardless of whatever bands we were playing with.
Is it fun for you, especially Ryan, because you're playing on a very different style of music than you have been in the past, at least with like your primary band?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been kind of playing like different genres over the years.
Sure.
I've been
Hopping around a little bit.
Yeah, been like kind of like a Josh Freeze or something like that. But I think that all of this is it's so fun for me, and it's basically, it just doesn't feel real. You know what I mean? Like it's like what happens like a year and a half we're already here,
right?
Like talking to you, and like
yeah.
we're already on the other side of America, and like it doesn't happen like that usually,
Right.
So it's just
not usually. It's one of those things where the fuse just lights and the fireworks are going off right away.
So I'm just grateful that we get to still play for people and make music, and we just want to have fun. That's what this all started as.
Of course. I really like how the EP turned out, and I think one of the main things that I'm always drawn to with your projects in particular, Dallon, is the songwriting. There's a certain edge there, and there's always something, especially when it started off with the Brobecks back in the day. I would listen to that and I would hear elements that just felt either like maybe like looking inward, but there's also commentary like on your own self, and it was kind of sarcastic in a way, and there was always a different edge and a different bite there. And I'm hearing that once again on the new material with I Don't Know How. My favorite song on the EP is Absinthe. So tell me a little bit about the creative process and the story maybe behind that one.
That one came together pretty quickly, actually. When we were making this EP, we needed one more track for it, and so our management team sent me out to LA to do a writing session, which I don't do a lot of, but it was with a couple of really talented guys. One was Tim Anderson from a band called I'm a Robot, which I'm a huge fan of. So got to write this song with him, and it turned out really great. It's called Absinthe, and it's not necessarily about
the alcoholic
literally
beverage,
about the alcoholic
right.
beverage, but we're using that as a sort of metaphor for
sure.
other things, I guess.
Absinthe makes the heart grow fonder. I like that play on words.
I guess it's just about buying whatever it is that you're sold, whether it's music, product on TV, and just don't necessarily believe everything you hear, I guess is the point of that song.
So you guys worked with, you mentioned collaborators. One of the people that you worked with was Drew Fulk.
Yeah.
Did you know that he's actually from a town that's about 20 minutes from here, in Kernersville, North Carolina?
I'm sure that he told that to me when we first met each other, but he's such a talented guy. I really like working with him a lot.
Yeah, he's worked on a lot of projects that I'm definitely a big fan of.
Probably more than I even know about, but he's a really talented dude.
If you want to, after the show, we can always go visit his parents' house, afterwards.
Make a pilgrimage to Drew Fulk's town?
Yes.
Yeah.
Work on any new song ideas.
Yeah.
Of course.
Next time I meet him, I'll send him a bunch of Polaroids of like his childhood bedroom.
Right, like, hey, we're just sitting here talking with your mom and John from ARTV.
Yeah.
Who? So, now that you've gotten all those songs out of the studio, working on all those, and you're bringing them to a live setting, it's probably got to be pretty fulfilling to see like the fans singing it back to you and everything like that. And it seems like the shows and the reception to the shows has been really good from the fans. The one thing that was kind of heartbreaking that I noticed in there is that, Dallon, you had some equipment stolen from you.
Yeah.
Do you have any update on that, on what exactly happened? And did you find your material? Did you find everything that was stolen?
Yeah, amazingly, we got everything except for my laptop and an iPad back. So my guitar, all of the other equipment that we use for touring and live shows.
Sure.
The LAPD, and along with like the hotel, and even TMZ lent a hand to tracking down the guy who stole all this stuff. And the LAPD told us like this never ever happens.
It's normally gone.
Yeah,
probably.
It's always just gone. No one ever gets their stuff back.
Right.
So it's really, really kind of like a miracle that we managed to get as much stuff back as we did.
Because I know you said you still lost the laptop, so does that mean you've lost any recordings that you were working on for a potential full length or anything?
There's a few things that were strictly on that laptop that are just gone, but nothing that is too serious that can't be recovered, because I did have hard drives and backups and things, which he initially stole.
Oh, so you got the backups back.
He stole the backups, but we got those back, so we're good.
It's got to be tragic when people take away like the things that you need in order to do what you love.
Right.
It's the worst.
Now, taking it back to, I guess, a little bit more of like your childhood type days and growing up, at what point did you realize that music was more of, it was less of a hobby and more of something that you were interested in doing as like a full-time thing?
For me, it was the time that I was 3 years old. I knew that I wanted to play guitar. I didn't even really know what a guitar was, but I saw one hanging in a pawn shop window and I knew that I wanted it. And from that time on, growing up, I was just always in love with music. And then, discovering the Beatles when I was like 14, 15 years old really like opened up everything for me.
Sure.
And I was like, I have to do this.
What about you, Ryan?
Yeah, I was like, I think I was like 4 years old when I knew what I wanted to do. My parents like raised me on the Beatles, and then I became to love them so much.
I feel like everybody's parents raised them on
See, mine didn't.
Really?
Mine grew up listening to 80s top 40 and country stations, and my dad would listen to like classic rock stations, so that's how I got familiar with stuff like a lot of great stuff like Queen,
right?
Things like that I still love today.
Right.
But,
So both of you have experienced such big crowds as you've grown up, as you've been in different bands, and you with Panic, you with Falling in Reverse, you've seen probably huge turnouts. Is it kind of a weight off of your shoulders in a way now to be playing these more intimate shows at smaller venues, or is it something that you find yourself missing a little bit and hoping that you work back towards?
The feeling isn't that much different, whether you're playing for 30,000 people or for
30 people.
Just the rush of being on stage and performing.
Yeah, the excitement to get out there and do what you love.
Sure.
Like it's an amazing feeling to be able to look out into a crowd and it keeps going and going. That's really overwhelming.
Right.
But
to see something you created like in your bedroom come to life, and you see people singing it back to you, just like
when these songs become larger than life, essentially. Like I think back to moments of like Mr. Brightside, of course, a huge song, and you hear like it overseas in like the UK, huge crowd screaming it back everywhere. Those are those moments where you've probably experienced it on your own at some point, where you feel like the crowd is connecting on such a real level.
Particularly in the UK. This last, we were there pretty recently, and got to play Reading and Leeds, and did a handful of sold out shows there, and the crowd response over in the UK has been something with this band that I've never experienced in any other band before.
What they do over there, it's a little differently than here. They'll sing back to you your instrumental parts.
Yes.
Not just the words, but like if there's
like,
a piano bit.
They sing the bass line, they sing the drum parts.
It's so great. I wish they would do it everywhere.
Yes.
It's fantastic.
The final question that I have a few little viewer questions that my viewers have wanted me to ask you, but I've got one last question for you, Dallon, and it involves a song that you were a part of writing. And I have to ask just because it's my personal favorite Panic at the Disco song, and I know you had a hand in writing it. It's the song Far Too Young to Die.
Oh, yeah.
Can you give me any insight into the creative process on that one? Just because I do have such an admiration and a love for that one.
It's been a long time, but pretty much everything that I wrote on that record was in, of course, collaboration with Brendan, because it was his band and his record for sure. So any ideas kind of had to be filtered through him and his team. But that song in particular meant a lot to me, and I'm really happy with the way that it turned out.
Yeah, I feel like it brings such an emotional punch in a lot of ways as it keeps going on. There's different layers and just the way that things are worded and the illusions that are felt.
Well, that means a lot to hear. I spent a lot of time and hard work helping make that record, so to hear that means a lot. Thank you.
Absolutely. So we got some rapid fire questions. These have come from my viewers that they wanted me to ask, so they keep in mind these are not my questions, but these are things that they wanted to know. So I'm going to start off. Will Nobody Likes the Opening Band and Mr. Sinister make it onto the full-length debut album?
If they don't, I'm going to be really mad. So I think it's best if we all make sure that they end up on there.
Sure. Now, I think I might already know the answer to this one, but I'll ask it anyways. Why did you guys decide to release a debut EP instead of a full-length album?
Well, I mentioned having to play catch-up with our fans. We don't want to put out anything that's not fully realized, and the fan response that we've experienced so far has been exponentially growing. So we needed to put something out right
to meet
away.
that demand.
To meet that demand,
Yeah.
so that fans can have something to listen to.
While you're still completing the full length.
Exactly. So instead, making an EP something that could be fully realized, even if it was short, as something that we could deliver to fans to sort of tide them over until we can get a proper full length done.
Sure.
Was basically just a business move, but we didn't want to put out a half-ass anything.
Right.
So an EP made the most sense.
Of course. Ryan, this one's for you. Has Ryan ever considered changing his last name?
If I did, I would have done it a long time ago.
Why?
But why?
Why? I don't get it.
I don't know, man.
I don't know.
No, there's so many things about this band that shouldn't work.
Right.
Yeah. A two-man band shouldn't be a thing. With
Right.
such a long and ridiculous name.
Right.
Yes.
We both have ridiculous names.
Yep.
We're way too old.
I would not call mid-30s too old.
But all of that stuff, it makes it that much sweeter that it is working. Because
Yep.
we're doing all of the things that we want to do rather than what you're supposed to do.
Right.
And the fact that people are responding to it.
I think it's actually helped me. I know that sounds funny because people remember that stuff.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
You both have names
I
that
used to
stand
like.
out.
Obviously, I never got made fun of in school ever. Not even
Never.
once.
Never.
So then, when people started to realize, my last name is kind of hilarious. It's
Yeah.
fun. It shaped me to who I am.
See,
Different spelling though.
That's
Seaman
an
for
important
weeks.
lesson. An important lesson.
Seaman for weeks,
Seaman.
guys.
Sounds like a campaign rally.
It's an important lesson, though. It's not dissimilar from a ridiculous band name.
Right.
Right.
All band names are ridiculous. You just have to sort of embrace it and make
just go with it.
You
Yeah,
make
think about it.
make it cool by not caring.
Yeah.
Right. Think about it. Foo Fighters, The
Beatles
Killers.
is a terrible band.
If
name.
you never heard the name, you have never heard the band Blink 182,
Yeah.
you would think that's like the dumbest name.
The
in
only
history.
band I think that came out with a good band name was Led Zeppelin. That's
Led
really,
Zeppelin.
although Sparks is pretty great too.
Yeah, that's.
So their good band names are few and far between.
And they've been taken for a while now.
Yeah, which is why we had to write an entire book for our band name.
So for I have another viewer question here. They wanted to know if the Brobacks albums that aren't available on iTunes or else on CD are ever going to be available at some point again.
Probably not.
Except for the signed copy.
Violent
Except for the
Things,
signed
yeah.
copy that you're
Yeah.
slipping to me after this.
Yeah,
right now.
I mean, all of those recordings are out there floating around on the
Right.
internet for sure. But in order to do proper releases of those things, it would involve a lot of legal hula hoops and jumping through this and that with past band members and other entities. And
Of course.
it's just a lot easier to let that stuff be out there and exist and let people find it if they want to.
Sure. How extensively do you plan on touring? Because I had a viewer from Australia asking if you would ever make your way over to the Gold Coast or overseas.
I sure hope so. I would love to go back to Australia. It's a beautiful place, and I guess they've been playing us on some Australian
Yeah.
radio recently. So
I like Australia because it's one giant California.
Yes.
To me.
The Gold
And-
Coast.
yeah, so I definitely hope we get out there soon. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just being out there though.
Cool. Final question, final one. What's it been like touring with Waterpark so far? Is it something that you expected? Is it going how you expected, or has it been a surprise?
It's been incredibly easy. I hear that they're very nice. I hope we can meet them
Yeah.
one day.
Yes. They're pretty elusive.
Yeah, I
Right.
mean,
Keep in the shadows.
we are sharing a bus with them, but
Still haven't seen them yet.
Still haven't
Ah,
seen
yeah.
them yet. But,
They stay on their side, we stay on our
yeah,
side.
that's
Right,
kind
of
of what it
course.
is. Yeah.
Of course. I understand how it goes.
But one day we'll probably meet them, and I look forward to it because I hear they're very nice.
Guys, I don't know how, but they found me. Thank you guys so much for joining me, Dallon and Ryan.
John.
Of course.
Thanks,
Thank
sir.
you. Thank you. Make sure to check out their debut EP. I will have it linked down below. Other than that, if you're new to the channel, then they should subscribe, shouldn't they?
Which that button is where? Right here?
It depends.
Here?
Probably on mobile, so
Somewhere
probably
around
in here.
Here.
Yeah, right in there. And leave a like on the interview if you enjoyed it. And we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. I meant to ask this. It's gonna be off the record if you wanted to be, but what do you plan on doing in the future in terms of the found footage thing? Because I think it's really, really interesting. And my, I guess, theory on it is since you're putting out the 1981 extended play, I noticed that Modern Day Kane and I think Opening Band were set in 83.